decimal form, and we're going to take this and go right back to feet. So in a standard form, if you are a visual learner, and if you're not, you don't have to do this. I know that this equates to 3 full miles, and then it's almost 4. It's right about there. So this is a part of a mile. Now each one of these miles is 5,280 feet. Make sure you have a calculator in front of you. Let me find mine. So I have 3 full miles. So 3 times 5,280, and I'm going to write that down. Is it necessary for you to write it down? No, but if you're a visual learner like I am, it may be helpful. Now this is just part of a full mile. What part? It's 0.9 or 90%. So I'm going to type in 0.9 of 1 mile, and to this I'm going to add 4,752. Now when I combine those, I come up with a total number of feet. So this measurement is equivalent to 20,592 feet. This is in standard form. In standard form, we're going to convert right now into decimals. So I'm going to underline hours and hours, and you'll see why when we go to the next problem. So automatically, I know there's 6 full hours. Now, this is the part that's really confusing for students. This next portion isn't going to be in terms of minutes. The problem is I'm not just given minutes, I'm also given seconds. So I need to combine these into a measurement of time that's only in terms. This problem I start off with a very standard form, and I'm converted into decimal. I have 6 full hours. Now how do I get this part? Well, I need to write this portion only in terms of minutes. So there's 38 full minutes, and then we have this additional 30 seconds. On the calculator, I take 38, and I'm going to add to it this extra portion of seconds. There are 60 seconds in 1 minute, and that's why you see this portion. Let's make sure this makes sense. Yes, 38 minutes and 30 seconds would be equivalent to 38.5. Sometimes there's a misconception 0.5 is like 50 seconds or 5 seconds. That's a portion of a minute. So that's right. We know 30 seconds and 60 seconds gives us a full minute, so 0.5 is half of a minute. That makes sense. So how do I take this and now make it into this portion? So I'm going to go how many minutes are in an hour? There's 60. I take this amount, divide it by 60, and that's how I get. So hours to hours, that matters. So how many direct hours do we have for sure? 3 hours. We have 3 hours. Now I need to write this in terms of just minutes. So 52, and then we have this extra seconds. So 10 seconds, and do we write it as a ratio? 10 seconds over 60 represents what portion is of a minute. So we have 52 minutes and this additional time for seconds. Now how many minutes are there in an hour? 60. So I divide it by 60, and this is my fraction. As a decimal is 0.8694 repeating. That's why this problem is so confusing. Underline days and hours if you have this down. That's what confuses students. There are 3 full days. Now you may not show as much work as I'm going to do because I know some students don't know how to attempt this problem. Each one of these days has 24 hours. So 24, 24, and 24, or 24 times 3. What is 24 times 3? I believe it is 72. Can you correct? Yeah, am I right? So I'm up to 72 hours. Now, for some of you who's struggling with this, I say go back and cross out the 3. We've already taken care of it. Now, if somebody says to you, hey, we have really long shifts at work right now, we're short on people, and you're going to work 0.8, forget about the 9-5 right now. They tell you you're going to work 0.8 of a day. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Okay, so in this case, I'm going to put in what the remainder is, and I have to ask myself, how many hours are in a day? And the answer is 24. Always go backwards. There's 24 hours in a day. So this 0.895 represents 21 full hours. So to the 72, I have to add an additional 21 hours, and that's what confuses kids. So 2 and 1 is 3, and I'm left with 93 complete hours. 93 complete hours. Now, how do I fill out the remainder of this? I look at what's behind the decimal, the leftover part. And I ask myself, how many minutes are in an hour? 60. So there's 28 full minutes. I take the remainder. How many seconds are in a minute? 60. And that's how I get my final answer. Let's go on to the next one. If you have a chance, write it down quickly. 4.625 miles, and we will convert it into miles, feet, and inches. Miles, feet, and inches. So how many complete miles do I have just looking at this problem? 4. But then there's this remainder part, right? So I'm going to grab my calculator, 0.625, and I have to ask myself, how many feet are in a mile? Let's see if you've memorized that. What is it now? Okay, so I have exactly 3,300 feet. And you may be saying to yourself, like, what do I put for inches? Is there any remainder? There's no decimal, so there's no additional inches. We've got 3 left. Let's go on to the next one. Please write down 10.24 feet. 10.24 feet. We're going to convert all into inches. So again, if you're a visual learner like me, I'm going to separate this, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody has different learning styles. This represents 10 feet. Each one of these is a foot. Well, how many inches are in 1 foot? 12. So each one of these has 12. Is it necessary for you to write this down? No, this is just for kids who are struggling to visualize what we're doing. So please take 10 times 12 or do it in your head. What do you end up with? 120 inches. That's this portion. What I haven't accounted for is this remainder. So we don't do 11. We don't do 11 feet. We only do 10 full feet. That represents the 120 inches. Now, how do we get this remainder? We take what we have, which is 0.24, and then we ask ourselves, how many inches are in 1 foot? The answer is 12. So I'm going to take 120, and I'm going to add on 2.88, and we come up with 122.88. 5 full miles, 5.96 miles. Each one of these miles is how many feet? So this is my visual. Again, you don't have to do this, but if you're struggling, this is what I'm representing. On a calculator, I quickly would take 5 times 5,280. That represents this whole portion. Okay, so I'm up to 26,400 right now feet. Now I need to figure out how many feet are here. We're almost up to 6 miles. So I take 0.96 and I ask myself, how many feet? You always go backwards. How many feet are in a mile? 5,280. And so to this portion, I'm going to add 5,068. So 5,068. That's my whole portion of feet. But everybody can see that we have a remainder here. And so I feel like the vast majority of my kids who are struggling a little bit with this, they understand the remainder, they just don't know what to multiply it by. So we go backwards. How many inches are there in a foot? Take it times 12. This is my answer, 9.6. Our last one where we practice going from decimal measurement to standard measurement. How many exact yards do I have? 9 full yards, exact same units. Okay, but then I have this leftover portion. And so how do I know what to multiply by? Okay, how many feet are in a yard? 3. Taking it times 3. I have 2 full feet. Then I take the remainder and I ask myself, how many inches are in a foot? 12.